I almost retired after my 8th year too. It's not about the welfare of the players, it's just about having that product on the field.
We respect our players.
Players suing the league in the biggest sports lawsuit ever filed. The concussion has become football's #1 issue, with some of the sport's biggest stars suspected of killing themselves because of the damage done.
The way I felt mentally and all those things working together, I wanted to not have those problems later.
This is Calvin Johnson, a Hall of Famer who retired in his prime. He had many reasons.
I decided to retire based off of the way my body felt.
But one quote truly stuck out.
It's not about the welfare of the players, it's just about having that product on the field.
The welfare and safety of the players, an area of weakness for Commissioner Roger Goodell and NFL teams.
The number of concussions went up this year, and they're going to go up and they're going to go down. We saw more self-reporting from the players and teammates. That's what I call the culture change.
Not entirely true. I'll let Calvin Johnson explain.
How many concussions do you think you had?
At least one a year.
How often did you appear on the injury report with a concussion?
Never.
And why was that? In 2012, he told reporters he suffered one against the Vikings. He knocked me good, Johnson said. You could tell. It was obvious. The Lions said and maintained that he passed their concussion protocol, and Johnson later apologized. I misused the terms nerve damage and concussion. However, he owns it now. I knew I was concussed because I blacked out. I wasn't seeing straight, and they wanted me to change my story. Mostly, he says, he played through concussions because in this NFL, that's how you earn Employee of the Month. Consistent with this man, former Lions center Travis Swanson, who also criticized the team for mismanaging his concussion in 2016. 100% true, Swanson wrote. They didn't put me in front of a doctor for an entire week in 2016. Add ex-Lions linebacker DeAndre Levy in as well. After writing a letter publicly discussing CTE, he testified before a congressional subcommittee on the dangers of concussions and CTE.
The moment I said anything about it, I had 2 calls telling me that I shouldn't talk about it. I posted simply the research. I spoke with Dr. Stern a couple summers ago, and I wrote the paper, and I was told not to talk about it the first day I was out. If I don't have the right to speak about that as a player, I think it really speaks about kind of the culture of the NFL owners. They still are trying to find ways to silence us.
Levy testified under oath that the Lions silenced him. And guess what? It doesn't just stop at the players. It starts at the top.
The league just settled a class action suit with thousands of former players, agreeing to pay $765 million in medical benefits and injury compensation to retired players without admitting any liability.
Without admitting liability, the fundamental key. ESPN reported in 2017, since announcing a $100 million commitment to concussion research, the NFL funded one study examining CTE, but that study isn't focused on football players, it's focused on jockeys. The study is led by an Australian researcher who once described American coverage of CTE as carry on and hoo-ha.
The evidence is that our doctors are making excellent decisions. That's proven by the 6-year study that we have and the research that's been done.
Put best, I would view it as if any giant corporation was doing internal research, said Stephen Duma, a concussion researcher. This is internal research that the NFL controls. Duma is right. Doctors are collecting a paycheck from the league that has one goal: deny. Thus we see this.
In my opinion, the only scientifically valid evidence of a chronic encephalopathy in athletes is in boxers and in some steeplechase jockeys.
Jockeys. The talking point rammed into our heads by the NFL. This farce is akin to Donald Trump appointing Rick Perry as energy secretary who doesn't believe humans play the key role in climate change, or Republicans limiting an FBI investigation on a sexual abuser. In 2012, the NFL donated $30 million to the National Institutes of Health. 5 years later, NIH officials decided to let the partnership expire when in 2015, the NFL backed out of a major study that had been awarded to a researcher who had been critical of the league. This is never about finding the truth. It's about rerouting the conversation in a positive PR spin. There's no doubt of a link.
There's 54 brains of former NFL players that have been studied, and of those 54, 52 have been diagnosed with this disease, CTE.
Boston University researchers found CTE in the brains of 110 of 111 former NFL players. And when the NFL knew of the dangers,
in 1994, then NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue created the Mild Brain Traumatic Injury Committee.
That committee became the vehicle by which the NFL denied the significance of the issue.
Look, when these barriers are put in place, the actions speak louder than any press conference Roger Goodell holds. There's pillars in this game. Limit the research, the NFL funds, provide the findings of a limited in-scope scientific trial, thus controlling the public narrative to sway public opinion. Journalistically, this cannot be seen as pure and true. It can only be seen as a cover-up, with roadblocks installed with one goal in mind: to stop the ultimate truth from reaching the masses. If you'd like to hear more thought-provoking content like TYT Sports on Facebook and to help in my journey to keep media independent, go to tyt.com/Rick.